Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We are so appreciative of you taking the time to be with us for our Panhellenic Sorority Recruitment Parent and Family webinar. So we'll do some brief introductions, and then we will jump right into it. Before we start, though, I want to make sure that everybody can hear us. If you can hear us, please let us know in the chat box function. So just in chat, just say, I can hear you, I'm here, hello, so that we know that everybody who is present is able to hear the presentation. The chat box will also be where you let us know if you have any questions. So for Q&A at the end, just enter any questions that you have throughout the presentation. Hopefully we will answer most of the questions as we go, but there's always the chance that you have a question that we miss or you just want a little bit more detail. So please do use the chat box function for any questions that you have. You can submit those questions throughout the presentation, and we will reserve some time at the very end for answering those questions that you have. So we will do introduction. About that. My name is Colleen Blevins, and I am the Associate Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life here at Miami. I work primarily with the Panhellenic Sorority recruitment process, and I will support the women who are implementing sorority recruitment from the council side as well as the chapter side as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Devin Hall, and I currently serve as one of the Assistant Directors in the Office of Student Activities in Fraternity and Sorority Life. With my role, I support Colleen with fraternity and sorority-related initiatives, but primarily work with our Interfraternity Council, but also supervise our graduate student who works closely with Colleen in advising the Panhellenic Council. So as I briefly talked about some councils that we have in our community, I want to spend some time to do a holistic overview of the fraternity and sorority community here at Miami. We are currently around 1/3 of the student population with 46 chapters. Those 46 chapters are housed, if you will, underneath 3 different types of governing councils. So we just want to spend some time explaining those to you all this afternoon. The first one is our Interfraternity Council, which is comprised of 24 all-men's fraternities that are nationally recognized. These men are governed by 10 elected officers that are advised by our office. Our Interfraternity Council participates in a formal recruitment process that takes place in the spring semester. Next up, we have our National Panhellenic Council, informally known as NPHC. It's comprised of 2 fraternities and 3 sororities that are recognized both nationally and locally. This council is also self-governed by a group of peer students that are advised by our Fraternity and Sorority Life office. These organizations participate in an intake process, which is individual based on each organization. So what students do, they can contact the organization president, and that information is located on our website to learn more about those organizations and express their interest in joining one of their chapters. Next up, we have the Panhellenic Association, which is comprised of 17 all-women's Greek-lettered organizations that are both nationally and locally recognized. These are the organizations that we'll be spending some time talking about today through their formal recruitment process. These women are governed by elected officers and also advised by our Fraternity and Sorority Life office. As you will learn throughout this presentation, they participate in a formal recruitment process that takes place in the spring semester.
All right, and so we are here to talk to you about our Panhellenic Association, the recruitment process, as well as the organizations that we have recognized within Panhellenic. We do have 17 women's groups who are a part of the Panhellenic Association. Of those 17 groups, 16 will participate in some way throughout the formal recruitment process. And so your students will have the opportunity to meet with 16 of our 17 Panhellenic Association organizations during formal recruitment at the beginning of the spring semester. The organizations you'll see listed on our website and on the screen right here, but you can find them on our website. You can also find them on the Panhellenic Association website with a little bit more information about them. I always suggest that parents can find more information about each organization by visiting the national websites, looking on social media to just get a kind of idea and a snapshot of what these organizations are and who they represent here at Miami. Every group is a little bit different and provides, solid support to our women on campus. And so it's always great for our parents to get an idea of the organizations that their students are visiting. In addition to our recognized organizations, we also have unrecognized organizations that are no longer a part of our Miami fraternity and sorority community. And so with this, you will notice that we have the organizations listed on the right-hand side of the screen right here. These unrecognized groups are organizations that have been removed from campus for a variety of reasons. Their information and why they've been removed from campus, with that little plus sign, it's a drop-down box. You can find out more about each organization, maybe why they were removed, when they were removed, and if they are slated to come back to campus. One organization that is listed on there is Alpha Zeta Delta. They are slated to come back to campus within the next year or two. So they've been gone for a few years, but they will be making their kind of recolonization efforts in about a year or so on campus. Pi Beta Phi is another sorority that is no longer recognized at Miami. Their recognition was removed by their national organization over the summer. So those are two organizations that your students may hear about, may learn about. And what's really important to note is they are not recognized locally or nationally. So if a student is trying to recruit for one of these organizations, they are not recruiting for the actual national organization. So it's just something that you want to talk to your students about. They are not part of our formal recruitment process. There may be women who are still affiliated. They're considered alumni women, so they're alumni members of these organizations, and we do not have acting chapters of these organizations, any of the ones listed on the right-hand side of the screen. They're not recognized by us or by their national organization. You can find these on our website if you go to miamioh.edu/FSLL, if you just go to our About and then Unrecognized section. All right, then we'll jump into the sorority experience right before we talk about our formal recruitment process. So Miami's sorority experience is unique in comparison to other schools. One thing that we have that we're really proud about is our central quad, our sorority quad area. We do not have sorority houses in Oxford or on campus, but what we do offer our students is a sorority living learning community. It is an opportunity for our sophomore members of sororities to live together in Central Quad. There, they will be placed in a corridor with women from their same chapter. On the right-hand side of the screen is the plan for 2018, so a timeline of room selection, where the LLC locations will be, plan and details. So you can familiarize yourself with this, and then your students will get this information as well should they choose to join a sorority on campus. So their sophomore year, they have to live on campus somewhere. If they're a part of our sorority community, they will live in Central Quad. Next year, that will be in Etheridge, Hamilton, Minnick, and Scott Halls. The benefit to this is, as I mentioned, we do not have sorority housing, but we do have chapter suites. And so our chapter suites are also located in Central Quad. It's a wonderful opportunity for our chapters that just have a space on campus to call their home. It's set up like a nice living room where chapters have a TV and a meeting space and an office, and they'll have small, new member class meetings and different things like that in the chapter suites. So the sorority experience is really unique to Miami and something we're really proud of. It's been an agreement with the university since the mid-1900s, so around like 1950-ish, is when they started to jump into this, having this agreement and the sorority quad area. So that will be a great experience for your women once they join. And now I want to jump into how they can join, what they need to do in order to join. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is our requirements and our policies. And so when we look at this, we look at something that is in the student handbook. And so all of these are requirements. There's no wiggle room and there's no exceptions to these policies because it is supported university-wide, and again, it is in the student handbook. So the first thing we look at is academic standing. A student must have completed one full-time fall or spring semester at Miami or another accredited institution. That does not include summer, does not include a full winter term. It needs to be a full fall or spring semester. They need to have grades. They need to have a 2.5 cumulative grade point average. There's no exception to this. I know that some students, maybe calculus is tripping them up, or they took bio and chem together and it was a really difficult semester. Unfortunately, if they fall below that 2.5, they don't meet our minimum requirement to join. This minimum is based on the minimum that our organizations have. So most of our national organizations have a minimum 2.5 GPA, and therefore they will not accept any women who have below this, and so that's why we set this as our minimum. So again, 2.5, no exceptions, no exemptions. We also ask for 12 college credit hours from Miami or another accredited university. This does not include AP or IB or dual enrollment credit. Like I mentioned, they have to have completed one full-time fall or spring semester. They need to have they need to have at least 12 college credit hours from Miami or another accredited university. They also need to have completed our Greek course. We have an online 2-part education course that walks them through what our community is, who is a member of our community, who are members of our community, what the values of this community are, and what the expectations will be of membership. That's the first part. The second part talks more about the new member experience and what the membership experience will look like for them. They will get all of that information from me. I will invite them to this course. It's through Canvas, which they're very familiar with all of their academic courses. So they will get an individual invitation from me to join that course. And they also can access it through our website as well under kind of some of our educational initiatives. There's a link there that they can directly access it even prior to registering for recruitment. But once they've registered for recruitment once a month, I've been sending out an invitation to join this course. The expectation will be that they complete both modules, both parts of it. The first part they have access to now. The second part they will have access to no later than the beginning of January, just finalizing a few details for that. And then I will invite everybody who's completed the first part of the course to access the second part of the course. So I will be very involved in the dissemination of all of that information for them. And then the deadline to complete that course will be the start of recruitment. So they will not be able to participate in our kickoff unless they have fully completed the course. They'll know. They will get tons and tons of emails from me if they haven't completed it. We really want all of our students to have all of the information before they go through the recruitment process of what the expectations are. And so the deadline will be January 31st, but I will probably send 1,000,001 emails until they complete it. So they can't say they didn't hear about it. I promise that they will get a lot of emails and reminders about that. And then the last requirement is they need to register. They have to register for recruitment. This is a requirement in order to join during our formal recruitment process. January 3rd at 5 p.m. is our deadline, and so we want to make sure that they're registered in our campus director system. That is on our website. It's all over social media as well, but if they want a direct link, they can always contact us. If they just go to Google Campus Director, Miami, Ohio, Panhellenic, they'll be able to find it pretty easy as well. Right? So I want to jump into some recruitment terminology. We always like to give this to our parents and family members just because it's all Greek to me. So some of it is getting a new nomenclature that maybe if you are not Greek yourself, or it's been a few years since you were involved in the process, some of this language is new. So we typically refer to our women going through the recruitment process as PNMs. And that is potential new members. So all of our women registered for recruitment are potential new members or a PNM. For bids, a bid is an official invitation from a chapter to become a new member. Women will receive bids on bid day on February 11th. And so it's a bid card, it's an invitation pretty much. So if they've got a bid to a sorority, it's an invitation to join that organization. Rho Gamma, this will be somebody who will be your student's biggest asset during the recruitment process. A Rho Gamma is a recruitment guide or recruitment counselor. She will help advise our PNMs throughout the process. She will be next to her, she will be with her, she will help her with any questions that she has. Those first 2 days of recruitment, the Rho Gammas will be with their groups the entire time, walking them around to the different chapters when they visit everybody. They're also a great asset if your student has any questions leading up to the recruitment process. They will get contacted by their Rho Gamma to answer any questions that they may have. The next is mutual selection, and so we always talk about that this mutual selection is the process that recruitment is kind of based on. It's the process in which both chapters and PNMs participate in to select preferences for each round of recruitment. And so just as your students are kind of ranking in preferential order the chapters are kind of doing that for the women that they're meeting. And we always tell both sides to really look at where the best fit will be. Find the women who will be the best fit for you. When we talk to the chapters, look at all of the PNMs and who kind of matches what your chapter personality is. And then we talk to the women going through the recruitment process, the PNMs, to really examine the chapters and find what they value. Really look at what you value as a person. Do you value service? Do you value philanthropy? Do you value academics? Do you value sisterhood? What is really important to you? And then find those chapters that kind of align with your values and align with what matters to you. And then that's how they will rank in preference order their organizations. You don't eliminate anybody, any chapters, they just rank in preferential order, same with the chapters, and then we try and match as best as we can the preferential rankings. And so we will kind of walk the students through that process every evening when they do their rankings. And then the MRABA is the Membership Recruitment Acceptance Binding Agreement. This is a form that will be filled out by the PNMs when they submit their final preferences on preference night. This is a binding agreement. If somebody signs it, it is a binding agreement for 1 calendar year. They will receive their signed hard copy will always live in our office for 1 year. They will have access to an electronic sample of that throughout the entire recruitment process so that they can view it as well. And so they will always know what that says. We'll walk through it with them before they sign it. They will initial it all. We want to make sure that they understand it. But the MRABA, MRABA, people use different terminology to call it, but it is a binding agreement that the students will sign when they're filling out their final preferences on that final evening of recruitment. All right, so we'll jump into the recruitment schedule. It is a long 2 weeks for our students. And so one thing that I always like to preface is it gets overwhelming and the evenings and the days are very long. So when you're talking to your students, make sure that they're taking care of themselves. Make sure that they're sleeping. Make sure that they're showering. Make sure that they're eating healthy. Are they eating fruits and vegetables? And all the stuff that parents, we always like to tell our children. Make sure that you're eating well and you're taking care of yourself. They will be talking to a lot of people, and so it's not uncommon for our students to either get sick during this process because of all the people they're meeting and hands they're shaking, or to lose their voice. And so we always try and remind them to take some hand sanitizer with them, bring some throat lozenges, and just take care of yourself. Drink some water with a little bit of honey and lemon, but you'll see that these days are very long, and our first priority is the health and well-being of our students, and we want to make sure that they're taking care of themselves. So recruitment will kick off on Thursday, February 1st. This evening, there will be 2 kickoffs at 7 p.m. and at 8 p.m. It's actually 8:30, I apologize. We bumped that back a half an hour. So 7 and 8:30. Groups 1 through 9, the students will be placed in groups based off of the alphabet. And so they'll be split into 18 groups. Groups 1 through 9, it's typically A through L-ish. Middle of L and M kind of can go either way. But first half of the alphabet will be split into groups 1 through 9. They will go to the 7 p.m. kickoff. The last half will be groups 10 through 18. They'll meet in Armstrong Pavilion. They will hear a little bit from the Panhellenic Vice President for Recruitment about what to expect for the week. And then they'll meet with their recruitment groups. This is not a day that they're meeting with chapters. They don't have to feel like they have to pick out the most perfect outfit to wear. They'll meet with their Rho Gamma groups for the very first time, sit down with their Rho Gammas and answer any questions that they may have and just talk through what the week's going to look like. It's a very casual evening where they're getting, and it's an introduction, an orientation to the recruitment process and just answering any major questions that they may have for that. For those 2 kickoffs, they'll do a kickoff with a large group and then they will meet with their small groups and meet with their Rho Gamma groups at that time. There's about 50 to 60 PNMs in each Rho Gamma group, and there will be 2 to 3 Rho Gammas to each group. So there's about 20 to 25 PNMs per Rho Gamma or recruitment counselor, which kind of helps with the counseling piece and being able to find somebody that you relate to and talk to those recruitment counselors. So let's kick off. Very casual day, casual clothing. Let your students know that they can relax on this day. Then we jump into welcome round, which is the evening of February 2nd, and then most of the day on February 3rd, so Friday and Saturday. This is the day where your students will meet with every single one of our organizations. They will meet with, that are participating in the formal recruitment process. They will meet with 16 of our Panhellenic organizations for about 20 minutes. And it's kind of like speed dating. You're going in, you're meeting with 2 or 3 women in each chapter, getting to know them. Chapters will do a small presentation where they'll kind of give some facts and figures about their groups, when they were founded at Miami, maybe what their tagline is, maybe what their values are, what their philanthropy is. They'll have quick conversations with a few of the women, and then they'll move on to the next chapter. And then they'll do the same thing, repeat for 16 times. This day is another casual day. We don't want the women to stress about clothing and what to wear and, that they have to be the most fashionable to stand out. We really want this day to be about the women and their personalities and to find chapters that kind of mesh with them. And so this day is about, just getting to know you and getting to know the chapters. So the women will wear Miami gear, a Miami t-shirt. They can wear the same t-shirt both days. They can wear a different t-shirt. It's totally up to them. They're going to be meeting different chapters, so the chapters won't know if they're wearing the same thing. And so this day is really about getting to know the chapters and really getting to know the Miami Greek community, and so that's why it's a Miami geared day, Miami focused. Then we jump into Sunday. After Saturday, February 3rd, the women will do their preference rankings, and then on Sunday they will meet with a few less chapters. They'll probably meet with a maximum of 12, but it's the norm for women to not meet with all 12 chapters, or not 12 chapters. Women typically will have less on their schedule. When we have around 1,000 women going through recruitment, and making sure that every woman is visiting as many chapters as possible is what we try and do. So philanthropy round, they'll meet with a maximum of 12 chapters. Again, more likely than not, it will be less than that, and that's really fine. That's the norm. And on this day, the women will learn about chapter philanthropic and service work. This is a day where they really get to learn about what the chapters do to give back to the community. Two of our values and our pillars are philanthropy and service and community. And so we value giving back and being a part of the community around us. And so this is a time for the PNMs to really learn about what our chapters at Miami do to give back. And this is also a time for some of our women to really determine, oh wow, this chapter's philanthropy is X, Y, or Z, and I'm really passionate about that. I'd love to come back and visit with them more. Or this chapter is more into service, and I love to do service, and so I really want, they have an expectation of X number of service hours per person, and I'm really passionate about that. I want to go back to that chapter. So they will get the opportunity to talk about that, which is really great. It's a really good time for the students to know more information about what's important to those organizations, and then again they can think about what they value and what matters to them. This day is again casual. A t-shirt will be provided to them. It will be a Panhellenic t-shirt, and that will be given to them by their Rho Gammas on kickoff. And so on this day, casual jeans, boots, booties, things like that is typically what we've seen in the past. And we want to make sure that the women are comfortable and that they are learning about the chapters and not feeling like they have to dress to the nines to impress. It's really about getting to know an organization for who they are and what they value to then determine if it's the right fit for them. So Sunday's done, they do some preference rankings, and then they go home and they sleep for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we really like to stress that that time should be a time for them to recharge and rest. because Sunday's a very, very long day. Then we jump into Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday evenings from about 5 to 10 p.m. is when we will do our sisterhood round. And this is a day where they will learn, these are days where they will learn about chapter sisterhood events and what makes each chapter unique. So what do chapters do to get to know one another to make this Miami campus feel smaller? If I join this organization, what are the expectations of being a sister? What leadership opportunities are available to me? What can this chapter do for me to help me as a person? How will they help me develop? What is their membership experience like? And so chapters will show a chapter video about their sisterhood. They will talk about sisterhood events that they do if they go downtown to Bengals games or Reds games, or what their formals are like and what their sisterhood events are like. So it's a little bit longer. They'll meet with the chapters for about 40 minutes. And the women will attend a maximum and visit a maximum of 7 chapters on this day. Again, most of the time, the schedules will be less than that, but they'll attend a maximum of 7 over the course of these 2 days. This day is a little bit dressier, business casual, so you'll see women in dresses or pencil skirts and nice tops, heels, things like that. I'm still not a fashion show, but it is a little bit dressier. The chapters are dressier. They're now really presenting themselves and what makes their chapter unique, and so it's more like a business meeting in a way where they go in and they learn more about the chapters in that way. So that's sisterhood round, and then we will jump into preference round on Saturday, February 10th. This is the last day of recruitment where they will meet with chapters. They have the opportunity to meet with a maximum of 2 chapters on preference round. Here, for most of the women, you will hear that this is the most special day of recruitment. It is the day that they spend more than 45 minutes with each organization, almost an hour, and they will chat with individual women and learn about their experience in the chapter. They'll learn about chapter rituals, why joining a sorority is lifelong, and why the women who join the organizations were impacted and chose that organization. So it's very personal and it's very special for the women. This day is, I would say, the dressiest. It is semi-formal. You will see cocktail attire, dresses, and things like that. Heels, maybe some boots. So on this day, again, they'll attend a maximum of 2 chapters. And then when I talked about the MRABA, that form, they will then fill out that form and they will rank in preference order the chapters that they visited. So number 1 and number 2, which chapter could they call home, and so they will do that in the evening of preference round. And by 9 p.m. the women will be done. So they will have until 9 p.m. to fill out those preference cards, and then they're done with recruitment. Bid day is, so while preference was the most special day, bid day is the most fun day. Bid day is Sunday, February 11th, and the women will receive bid cards, like I mentioned, an invitation of membership from their chapter, their new sisterhood. They will get this on Sunday around 4:45, 5 p.m. And so they will be introduced to their new organization. They'll find out which chapter they will join, and then they will meet their sisters. They will get a t-shirt from their new organization. So super casual, leggings and jeans and boots are kind of the norm that women wear on this day, because they'll get a t-shirt from their new organization. They'll be introduced to their new sisters. And then at 6 p.m. is when the bid day ceremony, not ceremony, but bid day celebration begins. So they'll go around campus and meet their new chapter. And then from 6 to 10 p.m. is kind of the bid day parties, if you will, where they will meet their new sisters. They will meet some advisors present. They'll have dinner with their chapter, and then at 10 p.m. They will all head home. But that is the recruitment schedule, the process of it. All of this is online. And again, your students will get more information from us in January, and then also from their Rogue Gammas. I'll touch on that. There was a question that came in on how to deal with a class that conflicts with recruitment activities. I'll talk about that in a little bit at the very end. So, all right.
Awesome. So a little bit about those expectations of membership. So after bid day, they join these new organizations. Oftentimes our teams get questions of what's next, right? What is maybe some things to expect from the sorority experience? We first want to stress academics. Right, students come to Miami University to seek an education and a degree. Right, our organizations foster and support that experience, whether it be study tables or you know, whether it be building relationships with faculty, encouraging their members to attend office hours with faculty, and different avenues like that. But I want to stress that our organizations have a high standard as it relates to academics. As Colleen was sharing earlier, that 2.5 minimum is truly that minimum expectation. A lot of our organizations strive to be above a 3.0, above a 3.2. So always taking pride in that academics piece. The next question we get is about involvement, right? So can they be involved outside of their organization? What does involvement outside their organization look like? I think it's really important to note that our students who are involved in sorority life are also involved in other clubs and organizations, whether it be for student government or whether it be for PAWS or any type of sort of student initiative that they're passionate about. MedLife is another common organization that we see students being involved with. And students are also engaged in their professional you know, avenues or development, right? So they are participating in internships. A lot of our students study abroad, whether that be over the winter term or the summer, right? I think that a lot of our students who are also involved within our fraternity and sorority community also are involved as it relates to their professional development during their time here at Miami. The next is citizenship, right? When we think about social, we think about community, right? These social organizations, how are we connecting our students to build community in meaningful ways to prepare them to live in a global society, right? Whether it be through the service projects in the greater Butler County area or giving back to the Cincinnati area or what have you, or giving back to their national or local philanthropies. Our students have the opportunities to engage in those conversations around community, right? How are we building community? How are we preparing our students for some of those social skills that they'll have to navigate post-college? So a lot of those conversations, equipping our students to be prepared for what that means. So both the organizational level and our department provide programs and conversations and dialogue for our sorority leaders to prepare for them to be great citizens and leaders in tomorrow's society.
Great. All right, so we have had some questions come in, and so we will answer those, but first I want to jump into some common questions that we get every year throughout the year, and hopefully this will answer some things that maybe are on your mind, and maybe you haven't even thought of, and may come up later too. So the recruitment process can definitely be confusing whether you are a sorority woman like myself or you are not Greek and you're like, as cheesy as this sounds, it's all Greek to me. I have no idea. We get that a lot. So these are some of the most common questions we get. So I'm just going to go through these 9 questions, and then some of the questions that we've been getting, and Mark and Devin have been compiling as well, I will weave in here. So is my student guaranteed a bid? So through the recruitment process, we do not guarantee that every student will receive a bid of membership. We can say that it is within 98%, 99% of the women do receive a bid to join an organization. Should a student not receive a bid, typically it is based on grades or just maybe the recruitment process was a little bit more difficult for them. So during the formal recruitment process, women are not guaranteed a bid, but more likely than not, there's a very, very high percentage that our students do receive bids. Very small numbers do not receive a bid. Again, about 99% of our women will receive a bid through that process. How many people get released from recruitment each year? This number does vary, so it kind of goes back to, is my student guaranteed a bid? How many people get released from recruitment each year varies on the expectations that each organization has to uphold by their national organization. So it could be based on grades, it could be based on involvement, it could be based on a variety of things. And so there are a small number of women who are released from the recruitment process each year. There's about, again, 99% of the women will receive a bid, so it's a very small percentage who are released. Somewhere it could be between, 15 to, I think the highest was 35 in 1 year. And so how many people get released? Maximum that I have seen in the last 3 years has been around 35 or 40 women. I want to jump back to, is my student guaranteed a bid, because I missed one piece of that. On preference night, when the women are ranking the organizations that they visited, so the maximum of 2 organizations, if your students visit 2 organizations, they are guaranteed on preference night if they a bid from one of those 2 organizations if they put them both down. So that evening, if they maximize their options and they list both chapters that they visited on their MRABA, they're guaranteed a bid from one of those organizations, either their first preference or their second preference. And so for that evening, they are guaranteed a bid if they maximize their options. Should they fill out that MRABA and choose not to list both chapters that they visited and they only put one chapter, we call that a single intentional preference. So they are intentionally only putting down one chapter. They're not guaranteed a bid from that chapter. So if they only put down one chapter, they may not receive a bid to that organization. If they don't, then that means they are eligible to participate in informal recruitment and things like that. They can go through the formal recruitment process the following year as well. And so that is a good segue into my student as a sophomore. Does that impact your chance of joining a chapter? So should your student have not gone through recruitment last year and now they're a sophomore, they're a transfer student, or they went through last year and it just wasn't a right fit for her and now she wants to go through again? We have about 10 to 15% of our women who go through the recruitment process are upperclassmen. And so our sophomores. We look at our first-year pool differently than we look at our upperclassmen pool. They are not in the same pool together, so it's not like one chapter immediately eliminates all of our sophomore women. 2 separate pools is kind of like 2 separate recruitment processes. So, you know, some chapters in the past may have said, well, we need only first-year women because they're going to be in the chapter longer, and for retention and sustainability purposes, we won't look at any upperclassmen. Because that used to happen and it gave an unfair advantage and was detrimental to our upperclassmen, we've created 2 separate pools of students who go through the recruitment process. So sophomores, juniors, seniors, all of them are lumped into one pool together as our upperclassmen students, and they are looked at together, not in comparison to our first-year students. And so is my sophomore student impacted because she's not a freshman? She's not, because the process is different. We have a very high placement of our upperclassmen students into our sororities on campus. What are letters, and then I'm going to jump down to the next row now. So what are letters of recommendation, and does my student need one? We get this question all the time. Some parents don't know what letters of recommendation are, or some parents are Greek affiliated themselves and know about letters of recommendation. And so they want to know, are they required? Do we have to have one? What I always say is every organization is different. Nationally, every organization is different in terms of what they accept and who they accept it from. And so your student having a letter of recommendation to our organizations, it can only help them. It doesn't hurt them. It's not a requirement though. And so every organization looks at it differently. Some organizations will consider women who have letters of recommendation differently than maybe women who don't, but it's not a detriment. It shouldn't be a detriment if they don't have letters of recommendation. We have many women who go through the recruitment process who don't have letters of recommendation. I've worked at other institutions where letters of recommendation, every organization requires them. You absolutely need one to help you through the process. Miami's a little bit different. Even though we have a rich tradition and a rich history of fraternity and sorority life, they don't rely on letters of recommendation to be the end-all be-all. They can only help your students, and they're always an added bonus, but they're not a requirement. How does one go about getting letters of recommendation? You can always ask women that you know who are affiliated with organizations on our campus. So if you know someone who is affiliated and is an Alpha Phi woman and you want her to write, or your student wants a letter of recommendation for Alpha Phi, they could reach out to that Alpha Phi alumni woman, ask her to write a letter of recommendation. She would follow her process for Alpha Phi. Same with Tri Delta. If you happen to be a Tri Delta and you are a mom or an aunt of a student, and that would make them a legacy, and so you could write a letter of recommendation on behalf of that student. And so every organization, again, is different. It's an added bonus, but it's definitely not a requirement to have letters of recommendation. The next question is, what should my student wear during recruitment? So I just touched on that on the prior screen, but every day gets a little bit dressier. that kick off that first weekend, they shouldn't be stressing out because we are providing them or encouraging them, to be pretty casual. So kickoff, super casual. Some women have come in like leggings and sweatshirts. They're not meeting with chapters, they're meeting with their row gammas. Friday and Saturday, welcome round, Miami gear again, so Miami t-shirt, jeans, boots, perfect. And then Sunday is full anthropy round. They will get a t-shirt from us, from Panhellenic. Women wear boots with that and jeans and things like that. Then the next weekend gets a little bit dressier. Thursday and Friday, again, business casual, like pencil skirts or a nice dress. And then Saturday is the dressiest, kind of cocktail attire, semi-formal. Sunday again, jumping back into casual, they'll get a t-shirt from their new chapter. So jumping back into academic requirements, GPA requirements. Is the 2.5 GPA requirement a hard cutoff? Will other credits count? So yes, 100% the 2.5 GPA requirement is a hard cutoff. We have had students who have had 2.48s and 2.45s and 2.49s. Unfortunately, that is not a 2.5. And again, as I mentioned, we have set this 2.5 minimum because this is the minimum chapter requirement. So we do not have a chapter that's GPA requirement is below a 2.5. And so therefore that is why our requirement is a 2.5 GPA. No exceptions to this. It is a requirement for any student joining all three councils, Panhellenic, MPHC, and IFC. It is absolutely a hard cutoff. Will other credits count towards this? If your student has a Miami GPA, we go off of the Miami GPA. And so if they have credits from another institution, that does not go towards a Miami GPA. If they have transfer credits and things like that, we count the Miami GPA. So will other credits count? Unfortunately, that is not applied to the Miami GPA. However, I will add that for those students who are ineligible, what we will do in January is we will pull on January 4th, we pull all grades. So we pull all grades of anybody who's registered for recruitment on January 4th, and around January 12th, your students will get an email from me that will let them know if they are eligible or ineligible. If they're eligible, they're good to go. We won't touch their grades again. The grade that they had when we pulled it on January 4th is what the chapters will see. If a student is ineligible because of their GPA, then we will consider J-term grades. And so what that means is, and it has to be, again, Miami, because it's the Miami GPA is what we will look at. And so this is to ensure, like Devin mentioned, academics are extremely important. We need to ensure that our students are achieving academically in college and that they're graduating. And we're really, passionate about that, and we want to make sure that our students are academically in a great place before they join one of our fraternities and sororities, because there is a time commitment, and we don't want the time commitment to also be a detriment to their academic success. So we will consider J-term grades for those who are ineligible. And so if somebody has below a 2.5 GPA, they're taking a J-term class, they will need to let me know. They will get an email from me that tells them that they're ineligible because of their GPA, and then they will need to let me know that they are taking a J-term class and they are hoping that that J-term class will make them eligible. And so what we will do is when J-term is over, I will pull grades again from now with the new J-term grades applied to their cumulative, and then if that J-term grade has pushed them up over that 2.5, we will then move them over to eligible in our system. They will then be eligible for recruitment. They will be in touch with me frequently throughout that process. So if they have questions or you have questions, you can absolutely shoot me an email and let me know, and we can talk through that. But the 2.5 requirement is a hard cutoff. Other credits do not count. We go by a Miami cumulative. We don't look at AP, IB, dual enrollment credit, nothing like that. We look at J-term grades only if somebody is ineligible. One thing I do want to mention is that if a student is taking J-term, but she already met the 2.5 GPA requirement, we will not pull her grades again. So she will have the opportunity to fill out a grade explanation form. So say she's sitting at a 2.75 and she takes a J-term course and she applies that, and now her grades are sitting like at a 2.9 or a 3.0. She will have the opportunity to fill out a grade explanation form that will go to all of our chapters that will say, my grade as it was beginning of January has now been changed because I filled out a grade explanation form, or because I took J-term, and so this grade explanation form is letting you know I have a new GPA, and all of that. Again, we don't pull grades for women who are already eligible. We only pull grades to confirm that they are eligible. And then we work with those who are ineligible. So that's something to note there. How can I support my student through the process? Just like I mentioned, talk with them, make sure they're getting enough sleep, enough rest, they're eating well, they are taking care of themselves, and it's stressful. You know, the days are very, very long, and they're going to class, you know, on Thursday and Friday, and then they're going straight to recruitment. And so recruitment happens, most of the time it happens outside of the class time period, and so they're, you know, if they're taking 15 or 17 credit hours, Thursday and Friday, they're going to class all day, and then they're going to recruitment. And so they're stressed about classes, and they're stressed about recruitment. So just talking to them and encouraging them that this is their opportunity and this is their process, and you want them to make the decision for themselves. Sometimes students feel very pressured to please their parents and make the right decision so their parents will be proud. I think just encouraging them that you'll be proud of them no matter what decision is right for them, and that when they go through the process, this is their process, and those students, your students, need to figure out the organization that's best for them. And so if you continue to encourage them and that process, I think that will also take some stress off the women as well. We see that a lot. The women are very stressed, and I want my mom or my dad or my aunt or my uncle or my sister to be proud of me, and just saying you're going to be proud no matter what. You have trusted them to get this far, and you know that you trust them to make the best decision for themselves, and they know themselves best. What organization do they feel fits with them? So I think that's how you can support your student through the process. What happens if my student doesn't get invited back to a chapter? So as I mentioned, you know, there is a preferential ranking. The women rank the chapters and the chapters rank the women, because there are over 1,000 women who typically go through recruitment, nearly 1,100. Not everybody, not every chapter, not every woman gets their top preferences. The whole point of the mutual selection process is to try and make sure that the women are going back to chapters that are so interested in them, and vice versa. Chapters are having women come back that are interested in them. And it's really finding the right place for you. So when there's 1,100 women who are going through recruitment, 1,100 women can't be going back to the same chapter every single night. We do have to make some eliminations and narrow down the pool for each organization, but also narrow down the pool for each woman. So what happens if your student doesn't get invited back to a chapter? Encourage her to continue through the process. We always say, trust the process, you know, you'll find the organization that's right for you, and sometimes it takes 1, 2, or 3 visits to really get to know a chapter. Those first 2 nights are short. They're only spending 20 minutes with a chapter. Sometimes the students will make selections just based on hearsay or based on what they hear about organizations or what they've seen on social media. They really haven't had the opportunity to truly get to know a chapter. So I always encourage women to, before they get upset or they're like, I lost out on the only chapter I ever wanted, get to know some of the other organizations, and you never know what you could find, and your best friend or your future bridesmaid could be the person you were just talking to. So if your student doesn't get invited back to a chapter that she was really interested in, the chapter she does get invited back to, they're interested in her for a reason. And I always tell women that these chapters that are on your list, they want you back for a reason. They want to meet with you and they want to talk to you. Why don't you go see what they have to offer you? Because every chapter has something to offer our women, and you just never know where your role could be in that chapter. So I would encourage them and support them and let them know that it's all going to be okay. And then, does my student have to go to every round of recruitment? This is the last of our common questions. Yes, absolutely. Every student does have to go through every round of the recruitment process. And so there are some caveats to that. If somebody has class, so I mentioned that we will have recruitment events on Friday evening, on Saturdays, on Thursday evenings. Based on how the recruitment schedule kind of shakes out, very rarely will we have students who have a class conflict. But class conflicts they are approved absences. So they're excused absences. What your students will do is they will fill out an absentee form. So they will fill out a form that says, I'm going to be absent on this day. I can't attend events on Thursday from 7 to 10 because I have a history class that's a lecture that this is the professor. And so she will be excused because, as we always say, academics comes first. So if it's an academic absence, Panhellenic will excuse her. We will then provide that reasoning for her absence to the organizations, and then the organizations take that into consideration. But academics are the only excused absence unless there's an emergency illness or an emergency family event, and then we will take that into consideration as well. But other than that, for every invitation that your student receives, she does need to go to those events. If she misses an event, she chooses not to attend, she will be removed from the recruitment process. So those are the common questions. I tried to weave in some of the questions that we had, and then I know that Mark and Devin have provided me with a list of some more that have popped up. So I will go through these for you. Awesome. So Devin, do you want to set them up for me?
I do, yeah. So one of our first questions is we've been talking about the community pillars, academics, involvement, and citizenship. How do students know about our pillars or these values of our fraternity and sorority community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of these pillars are publicly stated on our website. They also are in the online course that students will take. So when they go through the online course, we will introduce all of these pillars to the women. We will talk about scholarship and learning. We will talk about philanthropy and community service. We will talk about brotherhood and sisterhood. We will talk about leadership and values, and we will talk about community and why those 5 pillars are important to our community and set our community up for success. So they will learn that through our online course, and then the students will also talk about those values and those pillars with their road gammas. They'll fill out a values